IntellectualRadio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello, welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It is Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is we're going to be talking about the Great American Smokeout that's taking place on November the 20th. It's a national day encouraging smokers to quit. And tonight we're diving into the conversation to talk about smoking and marijuana and the effects on the body and how you can take action today. So go ahead, grab your water, grab your tea, your journals, and your favorite snack, and join in on this life-saving conversation. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, Rizal and I discussed communication versus confrontation. You can head over to YouTube and type in Intellectual Radio and stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is every cigarette you don't smoke is adding minutes back to your life. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, like the show, share the show, and invite someone else in on the show that you feel may benefit from this valuable information. We are so grateful for our sponsor on today. We have Pastor Michael Richardson with the Emmanuel Church of God in Christ, who has a special message for us.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emmanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
We're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emmanuel Kojic at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emmanuel Kojic-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson, and we're from the Emmanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
Joining me today is our healthy solution expert with over 20 years experience, and she is impacting lives every single day, Dr. Michelle Meeks, MD. What's up, Doc?
Hello, hello. How are you today?
I'm good. Excited about this conversation.
I am, because we're getting to the holidays, and then in January, people are going to be making resolutions and trying to take advantage and take care of their health. So thought it's a good time to start to talk about it as the American Smokeout is coming this Thursday. And just it's a reason for us to talk about it and to talk about the benefits of not smoking.
Absolutely. Now, I often talked about my dad, who was a smoker since he was 15, and he ended up passing away from lung cancer at the age of 71. And I can remember my mom when my brothers were little, and the doctors told him that they saw a spot on his lung and that he needed to stop smoking. And I can remember him trying to take steps to stop smoking, but it wasn't successful. He ended up years later, I want to say more than 20, 30 years later, he ended up getting lung cancer and passing away as a result of that. So I feel like this conversation can help save someone's life and encourage them to quit today.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because I know that we all know someone who smokes, and we probably all know someone who has been affected by smoking, either cancer or other respiratory illnesses, or even there are other cancers that can be linked to smoking. My husband's mother had pancreatic and colon cancer, which puts you at higher risk for cancers, not only lung cancer.
Wow. So 1 in 5 deaths in the US is related to smoking. So today, let's talk about the truth about smoking and how it affects or damage the body.
Yes, thank you. Because smoking really affects all systems of the body, right? So even beyond what we think about, right? We're smoking it, it's going to our lungs. We know that it's causing inflammation there. It also affects other parts of the body, like your brain. It can affect blood flow, because one of the main things that nicotine does is it increases inflammation in the blood vessels, in our organs. And so part of that inflammation is increasing your risk for strokes, increasing your risk for blood pressure issues because of that, even give you headaches. All of that can be related to smoking.
And I think some people take the nicotine for granted, thinking that, oh, it's just a cigarette. It's not as bad as if you were to maybe do some cocaine or do some heroin. But, like, no, nicotine is addictive.
Yes, and that's the thing, because it's legal. We think, well, it must be okay, right? Now, it's probably never going to get banned, right? Even though we know it is linked to all of these things, right? And so for many years, even now you don't see as many, or you don't really see any cigarette commercials, right? We remember growing up when there was cigarette commercials on the TV, the Marlboro Man and all of that. And so now, because we know more about it, they aren't promoting it. But what about the people who are already addicted, right? How do we help them? Because it's so hard to quit. It's not only the addiction to nicotine, it's the addiction to the habit of smoking. I smoke when I'm on the phone. I smoke when I'm in my car. And that's it's a very bad or a very strong habit to break, because you still have to do those things even when you quit smoking, right? You're still going to talk on the phone. You still have to take the car home and all of that. And so how do you deal with those triggers that are going to be there for life?
Absolutely. I can remember my dad, soon as he woke up, it's like, I gotta have a cigarette. Even when he was going through, and this is probably bad, going through treatment for lung cancer, it was like, I know that I should not be smoking, but it was still hard for him to put the cigarette down. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, and I have to just keep reminding myself that it is an addictive thing. It's an addictive substance. And I really think people take it lightly because it is legal and you can get
Right.
it. And at one point, they were glorifying it with the TV ads and
Right.
everything, making it look cool to smoke. When you're out, you got a drink and you have the cigarette in your hand, and supposedly it looks sexy. And so
Right.
kids today probably still think that it's cool to do it. They just find what they would call healthier ways to get that nicotine.
Right, right. Yeah, and the thing again is that because it affects all parts of the body, even simple things like having heartburn or acid reflux or developing ulcers can come from nicotine, and we don't think about that when we think about smoking. And so, um, even though it's not glorified, as we're saying, people are already addicted. Some kids, right, are also, they may not be choosing to smoke cigarettes, but they may be thinking, okay, if I vape, that's healthier, or if I smoke marijuana, that's healthier. And we know that those things also have their issues, which we'll talk about. But for sure, even with vaping, there's nicotine in there. There's other chemicals in there as well that can affect people's health. And so we don't in the medical community, we never say that vaping is going to be safer than smoking a cigarette, right? It all has nicotine or other chemicals, and it all is being inhaled into your lungs, which then causes inflammation, causes different changes to your cells, which could increase your risk of not just cancer, but COPD, asthma, those things as well.
So before we dive into the marijuana and the vaping, I wanted to really quickly talk about what smoking does to the skin and how it ages the skin.
Yes, right. And something we, want to think about so we can age gracefully, because nicotine decreases the collagen in your skin, and it can increase your the wrinkles in your skin. And so and it also, because of the inflammation in the skin, changes how the skin looks, right? Not only is it changing the collagen in your skin, we can see that the skin looks thicker, or we call it leathery. There's also different skin spots that you can see with smokers as well. And so when we think about other things that we want to address or have a good quality of life, if you want to age gracefully, think about that too, right? How it's changing your skin.
Yeah, they talked about the teeth. They talked about the breath. Like you can tell, like the smoker's breath is like a real turn off. And not to mention that your clothes and everywhere you go, you smell like smoke. And I think the people that smoke, they so used to it, they don't really smell it. But it's like, it is. It's a big turn off.
Yeah. And actually, and for people who are around smokers, secondhand smoke also increases your risk of cancer, right? There's some thought that actually just being around secondhand smoke a lot really increases your risk for lung cancer. And so we think about that when we think about our children, right? They may not be smoking, but if we are smoking around them, it's, damaging their health as well.
That was one of the fears that my mom had because she was around my dad for so many years and he smoked, that she was afraid that, oh my goodness, like I could probably get lung cancer too, because when he was smoking, like a lot of the times he was smoking in the house, in the car, and like she was there. So that's one of her fears. When he passed, she ended up like going to get her lungs checked out because
Good.
she was kind of nervous that may be her because she had been with him for so long. They was married 53 years, and the whole time he was smoking. So
Yeah, something to be aware of. And I'm glad that she thought about it and got checked out. One of the things we do for smokers and those even who have quit smoking but were smokers for a long time, we recommend a CT scan. It's sort of a lung screening test if you have been a smoker or if you are a smoker. So you can talk to your doctor about whether you qualify for that lung scan that can look for early signs of cancer depending on your history, right? It's not for everybody, but it depends on how long you've been smoking and how long you've quit smoking.
So, did you know that smoking is still the leading cause of preventable deaths in the United States, and over 480,000 Americans die every year because of smoking? And that includes that secondhand smoke. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, and that's cancer, that's heart disease, that's other lung issues like COPD. And so when you put all that together, it's all related to smoking. And yeah, that's how they get those numbers.
And so you talked about the cancers that people are susceptible to because they are smoking, along with the other diseases. It weakens your immune system and makes it harder to fight infections or disease.
Right. Yes, we talk a lot about, keeping your immune system healthy so that you can fight infections. And because of the toxicity of nicotine and the inflammatory process that it puts your cells through, it really does weaken your immune system, right? You're more likely to get those other things. We hear about people with bronchitis. They're always coughing up phlegm and stuff like that, because also now their immune system is weakened. They're more at risk for certain types of pneumonias. It's really multifactorial.
And so I really want to talk about the marijuana because I feel like, I don't know, it seems like lately, but then over the last 10 years, I feel like more and more people I know are smoking marijuana. I want to say 1 in 2 people. I'm
Yeah.
so serious. Smoke marijuana. Just about everybody I know. And I'm just like, wow, like when did this happen?
Yeah, right. And I believe, and I haven't looked at numbers, but as the number of new tobacco smokers decreased, I wonder if the number of marijuana users increased because we thought it's safer for us, right? And we don't have right now a direct link between marijuana and lung cancer, but we know that it also has its bad effects, although it has some good things too, right? Because we use it for chronic pain or inflammatory conditions and things like that.
So
So,
when um people think marijuana is safe because they say, oh, it comes from the earth. Like God created it, it's natural, but like they say, smoke is still smoke and you're inhaling it in your lungs. So, what would you say, or what should people understand about smoking
right,
marijuana? What
yeah,
are we missing?
right. So there's an immediate impact when you smoke marijuana, right? First of all, it can affect your thinking, attention, coordination, all of that. It has some long-term effects as well, right? We know that teenagers, for one thing, they will smoke marijuana and not smoke tobacco more than they will, they'll smoke marijuana instead of tobacco. And we know that when you smoke marijuana, it can affect the brain's growth. It can affect, how well you're able to think, your cognition, all of that. And not just in the immediate, like I said, sometimes it'll affect your attention and so forth. It can have long-term effects on your cognitive ability. And especially because the brain is still growing and maturing up until age 25. So anytime you're introducing a chemical into your brain, into your system, there's a risk of those effects, right? Not only in the short term, but in the long term. But we do know a lot about marijuana, cannabis, that can be helpful for people as well, because on some levels it relaxes people. It can act a little, it can decrease a little bit of that inflammation in the body. A lot of patients with chronic medical conditions use it for medical purposes, right? And we know that there's a whole list of medical diseases that prescribers can prescribe medical marijuana to treat, right? In certain cases and certain doses, right? We try to say don't overuse it, use it when you need to, right? For chronic pain, for people who have multiple sclerosis, for any sort of joint inflammatory conditions, people have found it to be very helpful. And so we have to balance that positive with the possible bad effects from overuse in younger populations when the brain is still developing. And then also for women who could be pregnant, we don't want to smoke either tobacco or marijuana during pregnancy.
I feel like since and I work right now in probation, and so we do drug tests and stuff. And one of the questions come up. We ask about drug use, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I don't do drugs." And I'm like, "Well, are you using anything?" And they go, "Oh, marijuana." I'm like, "Marijuana is a drug." "Oh, it's legal." I'm like, "It's still a drug." Like,
Right. And it's legal in some states, but not all states.
exactly. It's still a drug, even though, and I feel like a lot of people was running to get the marijuana card so that they
Right.
can be able to smoke it legally and not, be take a like a violation for it because they like, I smoke it every day. Like it's something. It's I could stop if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to quit, I could quit. But it's something that I do every single day, and I'm like, it's still a drug.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, people, like I said, it's a fine line because it does work from a medicinal purpose for medical conditions, right? But just like with alcohol, because it can impair your attention, your cognition, your ability to think sometimes clearly, you shouldn't be driving while high, right? Uh, Right.
These
And
people.
people probably do that.
I'm sorry to laugh.
But it happens, right? And
Yes.
you can get a ticket if you are
Yes, you can.
stopped
You can. Yes.
and you're driving while high. So it's the same thing.
I feel like they're
You're
more.
intoxicated.
Yes, I feel like they're more comfortable with it. But yes, you can get a DUI, and the DUI doesn't necessarily mean that you're driving while under the influence of alcohol. It means that you're under the influence of something.
Influence of
And
something.
so,
Yes.
yes, I think people have the wrong perception that, oh yeah, it's legal, so I can smoke and get high, just like you can't drink and drive, or you shouldn't be drinking and driving,
Right.
because your judgment can become
Is
impaired,
impaired.
and other people and yourself can get hurt in the process.
That's right.
So
That's right. So that's something to think about, right? Because that's different than smoking cigarettes. You can drive and smoke tobacco, right? And smoke nicotine. You shouldn't be doing that if you are using marijuana.
yeah. So how does marijuana impact the lungs, or does it impact the lungs differently from tobacco?
Yeah, they both impact the lungs, right? Because they're both inhaled toxins into the bloodstream through the lungs. We don't have a lot of direct evidence right now that it directly causes the other things we know nicotine does, right? Like we know smoking causes lung cancer and COPD, right? We don't have a lot of direct evidence for that, but I think of it like I think of nicotine. I say anytime you're inhaling a chemical, a toxin into your lungs, you're increasing your risk because that's causing more inflammation in your lungs. That can affect your ability for your lungs to function at its best, which could mean you feel short of breath. That could mean that you could develop asthma and things like that. So you have to be aware that anytime you're putting a chemical into your lungs, you're increasing the risk of long-term lung disease.
Yes, it says smoking cannabis, regardless of how it's smoked, can be harmful to the lung tissues. It could cause
Right.
scarring and damage to the small blood vessels.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And then they'll probably continue to do more studies on the effects of marijuana now that it's becoming more and more prevalent. A lot of the studies that they will do would be what we call sort of retrospective studies. So when a person dies, they may then look back in medical records to say, were they a marijuana smoker? And then we gain more and more information about whether their death was related to marijuana. We don't have that kind of data like we do on smoking for marijuana use.
What about the people that do like the edibles, and they cook the marijuana, put it in stuff, and they do it that way? Like, is some people say, "Oh, well, I do it that way because it's a healthier way of getting it in versus smoking it into my lungs."
Right. So yeah, so if you're not smoking it into your lungs, then right, the chemical isn't going directly into your lung tissue. But you still have the problem, the issue of the marijuana, the THC affecting your brain, your thinking, any inflammatory, you will get the anti-inflammatory properties, right? Because as I said, it can help pain, it can help inflammation, but it's also can affect your cognition, your attention, impair your ability to move, you feel tired.
Some people say they're more creative. It helps them be creative, It helps with stress. All of a sudden you went silent, Dr. Michelle. I'm sorry. Nope, I still can't hear you. I'm not sure what just happened. Just hold on for me 1 second. I'm going to remove you and bring you back in because all of a sudden you went silent. If you guys are tuned in, we are live on Intellectual Radio with Dr. Michelle Meeks, and we're talking about Quit Today, Live Tomorrow, what the Great American Smokeout means to your health. Are you able to hear me, Doc? Nope, I can't. I'm not sure what just happened all of a sudden. Okay. All right, go ahead. All right, she's going to jump out and jump back in and see if that's going to rectify the issue. Again, we're talking about or encouraging individuals to quit smoking and to join in on the national smokeout that's taking place on November the 20th. And to let you know that you are not alone, and that there are resources and a support system out there to help you stop smoking. Hey, Doc. I can't. Nope. Are you by a phone to where you can call in but stay there on camera? I could give you the number. Let me know when you're ready. You ready for the number? It's 708-223-8953. And we're going to have Doc call in because she is giving out some good information and letting you know just how detrimental smoking is to your health. Okay. All right, Doc. So we're talking about marijuana, and you was talking about the effects on the lungs, the effects on the brain, and then also the impact of if you start smoking at a younger age as well.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Very good. So the main thing with marijuana is, yes, it can affect your lungs, but I am concerned as a doctor. I'm like, I see younger and younger patients, teenagers in high school who feel it's okay, right? At least I'm not smoking nicotine. But we do know that it does affect the brain development, cognition. We want to be sure that those things are not going to have long-term effects, right? If you start smoking young, because the brain is still developing up until age 25, and we're adding in toxins to it. And so everything in moderation, for sure, because we know that, marijuana does have some medicinal effects for people.
I just wonder how some people smoke every day. They smoke. I know it's not funny, but I know people that smoke it every day. And it's like, how are you giving your body and your lungs a chance to clear out, function on its own or whatever, your mind, if you're smoking it every day?
Yeah. And I know of people who, if they smoke it every day, it's kind of like nicotine, and it's hard to get off of it. You still have that addictive quality, right? And so it's a vicious cycle, because the more you're smoking, you're more tolerant to the effects of it. so it takes more of the marijuana to give you the same feeling, right? Because if someone who's never smoked, they might smoke one marijuana and feel a big effect from it, right? But if you're continuously smoking, then you become what we call tolerant, right? And so it takes more to get the same effect.
I'm always scared that I always say marijuana is the gateway drug to other drugs, like because I feel like sometimes you're constantly chasing that first high if that was the first drug that you use, and it always kind of leaves you open for other drugs or other substances.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't want to say it's just a gateway drug, but we know that there are other things that will cause one person to become addicted to drugs, right? Part of it is genetics, part of it is, right, their lives and other stressors. So yes, not as we know, not everyone who smokes marijuana is going to try other drugs. But we also know that when it comes to drug addiction, there may be some genetic predisposition to that, right? And so that's something to be aware of when I take a history, right? It's important to know, because we don't really talk about it. You know, is there anyone in your family who's ever been addicted to drugs? I ask that because it may increase your chances, your risk of, you know, being, having that sort of addictive, I won't say personality, but that higher risk of becoming addicted to drugs, right? Not because it is means that you will become, but we always want to know that whole family history story.
Now, moving on to vaping, and I'm not sure how long vaping has been around, but it seems like more and more younger kids, teenagers are turning to vaping because they feel like it's a more healthier alternative than smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, smoking cigarettes has gotten such a bad rap, right? That the younger people are turning to other things. But with vaping, we're concerned about that too, because there's nicotine that can be in the vape pen. There's other chemicals that can be in the vape pen that can still cause inflammation in the lungs. And the other part with vaping is because it's flavored, it appeals to teenagers and younger kids, right? They make it appealing. And so that's the other, struggle is, right, none of it is good for your lungs because it exposes you just to what you said, right? Not only the nicotine, but the other sort of preservatives and things that they put in it to allow it to be vaped into your lungs. And so you've got to be aware of that. And the thing is, because it's newer that we're talking about it, there's not a lot of studies to say, no, you shouldn't do this because it can lead to ABC, like we do with nicotine. We have that. And so the incidence of new tobacco smokers over the years has gotten less and less, while more people are turning to vaping and marijuana use.
Yes, I was looking at some of the different devices that they have out here that people could use. I know the e-cigarette is one that's it's a vape too that people use, and they feel like, oh, but it's an electronic cigarette, so you're not really getting a lot of the nicotine or inhaling it into your lungs. They feel like it's, for some reason, it's more safer, but it says nearly 1 in 5 high school students are using those e-cigarettes, thinking that,
Yeah.
oh, I'm choosing a healthier option.
Yeah, and by the time we find out that information that it's maybe not, we'll be in the same place we are with tobacco, right? Because it takes time to figure out what's going to cause, issues in the long term.
Yeah. And I thought about cigars too, because a lot of people may not smoke cigarettes, but I know a lot of guys and some women too they love to smoke cigars. Like, I like the smell of it, but I'm not a cigar smoker. But a lot of them will smoke the cigars versus the cigarettes. And I think cigar smoke, it's not something that you do every day.
Right.
Right. Versus like somebody who smokes cigarettes, but it's still
Right.
nicotine is still.
It's still nicotine. And that's something to think about for someone who, yeah, you're not smoking a cigar every day, but do you have other medical conditions that you probably shouldn't be smoking any nicotine, right? If you have COPD or if you have any cancer, right? Because nicotine is what we call a carcinogen, which is a cancer-causing agent. And certainly if you have risks of other diseases or, you know, any sort of inflammatory condition, multiple sclerosis always comes to mind, then you don't want to expose your system to that at all, right? Even though it's intermittent.
So how would someone know that they have this dependence to nicotine?
Right. So certain things we ask, right? Do you reach for a cigarette first thing in the morning? Have you tried to quit before and you haven't been able to quit, right? Those are some of the things we think about and we ask, because there's many tools now that we can use to help people quit smoking. But yeah, if you smoke within 30 minutes of waking up, you're reaching for the cigarette. When you try to quit, if you feel jittery, irritable, anything like that, you're addicted. And then if you're giving up social activities, right? Because now you can't smoke in bars and you can't smoke in certain places where you used to be. And you might think, well, I don't want to go because I know that I'm going to want a cigarette. And yes, you can step outside and all of that. But those are telltale signs that you're addicted when you're changing your behavior, your activities so that you're able to smoke. And then we haven't even talked yet about the things that we can do to help people quit smoking, right? Lots of things we have, from, you know, nicotine, gum, and things like that. So what I normally will do when I counsel patients to quit is, first of all, think about a couple of things. Why you smoke, when you smoke, right? So we can think about what are we going to do differently, right? And how can we help you, give you the tools to quit smoking, right? So think about why you're doing it and why you want to quit, because that's going to be your motivation when you really want to smoke again, right? Maybe it's to play with the grandkids and be around and or, you know, your daughter says you can't come around the grandkids because you smoke, then you're like, well, I'm going to try to not smoke. That's a good reason because you want to be with the grandchildren. So think about your why, and then think about when you smoke so that you have a plan. Because if you smoke when you're in the car on the way home from work, that's not changing. You always got to go home, right? But what helps people is actually a couple of things. Changing the route that you go home, because the brain is a wonderful organ. You pass the street, the gas station, your brain says, it's time. I need that cigarette. But if you change your routine, that helps. Also having something tactile in your hands. So maybe twirling a pencil, a straw that you can just kind of pull and drag on, just to have that habit. As you're quitting the nicotine, at least you still have something in your hands. That can help people as well. And then having a friend to call as well that can help you through. All of it helps you quit. And as you say here, right, the minute you start quitting smoking, you add years to your life. Right? It doesn't matter how long you smoked. You could have smoked 20 years. We don't care. The minute you start quitting and you quit, it reduces your risk of an early death and adds years to your life. Not only years, but quality years, right? Now you're not having to deal with all those effects from COPD and having heart disease and all of that. And those are the things that, you know, when we're talking about prevention, we're preventing that, right? Even though you have heart disease or COPD, you still improve when you quit, and improve your prognosis if you have cancer, right? That's why we talked earlier. We said if you have cancer or you have a high risk of cancer, don't even start smoking, right? Or really work to quit. We've got medications that can help people quit smoking. We've got lots of nicotine replacement options, patches, nicotine gum, right? That's the replacement. And then the medications that decrease the craving for nicotine, right? Wellbutrin, Chantix, there's different ones that can decrease your craving for the nicotine. And so both things together, if we do nicotine replacement plus medication, that can really help someone be successful as they quit. And also, if you're trying to quit and then you have one cigarette, you know, forgive yourself, get back on the horse and keep at it, right? Because most people who quit long term relapse in the short term, but get back on, you know, and keep striving for that.
I know you always talk about this, like with food, and like I think someone, I don't know if it was you or someone else, said they used to drink, maybe it was like Coke or Pepsi, and they drink so many a day, and then they just started cutting it down to like maybe 1 or 2 a day. You know, you're still getting that fix, but you're just not getting it. You know, you're not overindulging in it. And then it's just a way of, you know, like cutting down your taste for it, your craving for it. Is to just, if you can't do it cold turkey, just to kind of decrease it, the moderation of how much you intake it into your body.
Yeah, we usually will say some people can quit cold turkey, some people can't. So I will usually ask them, which is the easiest cigarette for you to give up? Let's give that one up first, right? So we have some small wins, right? And they can usually tell, okay, yeah, I don't really need that cigarette. It's just habit or whatever. So we work on that, giving up the easiest ones first. There's even apps that can help people, right? So if you usually smoke 8 cigarettes and you're going to go to 4, the app will remind you when you have already said, these are the times that I'm going to allow myself to smoke. So that if you try to smoke earlier, it'll remind you that, no, if you wait another hour, you can have that cigarette. But it's self-motivating behavior, right? You've got to stick with it on your own. But there's lots of ways that can really, really support people in quitting. No one should be smoking cigarettes every day, because we have lots of great tools and supports to help people. Peer supports, people who have quit already, they have peer lines that can help people, you know, motivate each other. Lots of support. 1-800-QUIT-NOW can connect people with those resources.
That was one of the things that you touched on earlier, was the support system that will help you to resist the cravings. A lot of times, you know, it's just like working out. Sometimes people can't do it by themselves. They do much better when they have a partner, someone to hold you accountable. Girl, I want to have a cigarette. I'm calling you because this is the time that I normally would smoke, so I don't want to have to smoke. You know, and you use those people to help you quit if that's what you need to do, to hold you accountable. No, you don't need that cigarette. You put the cigarette down, do something else. Like you said, exercise would be a good thing to do. And I don't know, they have these different games and stuff that you can play. I think I would rather be addicted to like the little games on the phone versus the cigarette. You know, you still moving your hand. There's something in your hand that you're moving. It could help stimulate your brain as well. Like different things.
Absolutely. All those things really do help, because if you can redirect your thoughts to something else. That's the thought about if you call someone on the phone, right? You're now not thinking about the cigarette. You're thinking about having that conversation. They can remind you why you decided to go on that journey. Same thing with, you know, the games on your phone. Your hands are busy. Your brain is busy. Chew gum. You'll see smokers who are trying to quit. They'll chew gum because that's the oral fixation part of it as well. So again, so many tools, and having a support system is key. You can't do it on your own. It's hard. It's addicting. We wouldn't tell someone who is addicted to heroin or cocaine and just will yourself and you can do it, right? We connect them with all sorts of resources, right? Counselors, therapists, medications, all of that to help them quit. And so the same thing goes with tobacco and nicotine.
So give us some words of wisdom, Dr. Michelle. I know you've already gave them some gems on what to do and how to do it, and let them know that they're not alone. If someone wanted to quit today, they have it in their mind that they want to quit today, can you give some words of wisdom on just quit today, live tomorrow?
Yes, so important. So if you're out there and you're listening, you might be the smoker or you know someone who is a smoker, right? If you're that support system, go and talk to them about what you heard today, why it's so important for them to quit, for the better quality of life, to be able to breathe, to save money, to, hang out with their family, and feel better, because people who quit also will tell you how much better they feel, how much easier they're breathing. And not only that, how much money they saved. So, if that's you, really be a support for that person. And if you're out there and you are a smoker and you've smoked for years and you've tried, try again. We have lots of resources. Talk to your provider about all the options available to you and make a plan. That is the most important part. Make a plan. Pick your quit day. Some people pick a birthday or some important day to them. Pick a quit day. Have a plan. Tell one or two good friends that they're going to be your person. That if I'm feeling like I need to pick up that cigarette, I might call you. Talk me down for 5 minutes. And those things really can help people become successful with quitting, because that is how, as we said, right, if you quit now, you can really begin to live and feel better and have a good, long quality of life. It's never too late to start.
Thank you so much, Doc. How can listeners stay connected to you?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook at Doc Michelle. They can find me through your show as well. If they ever need someone to do some health and wellness talks or anything like that, they can always reach out to me virtually.
Thanks again, Doc. I appreciate you educating us every single month. And I hope that they were listening today and they commit to quit. Remember, you're not alone. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
You guys don't go anywhere. I want to highlight my sponsor, closing sponsor, which is Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. And she's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. You can contact her at marykay.com/GDOTSON and let her know that Warriors Talk sent you. Remember, Warriors Talk is always looking for guests to share their empowering journey. You can reach out to me via email at warriorstalk1@gmail.com, or you can inbox me on Facebook. Don't forget to pick up my journal for those who are going through a cancer battle. I have a Take Charge of Cancer journal for healing, faith, and empowerment. If you are starting your cancer treatment, this is a journal for you to just write down everything that you're going through. It would help you to relieve stress. It gives you 10 tips on how to take charge of cancer. And I will leave you with these words of wisdom. Small steps every day becomes big wins over time. Join me next Monday right here on Intellectual Radio at 6 p.m. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on IntellectualRadio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.